I'm Richard Tilley with ROQ US. In today's video, we're going to go over setup and calibration of your positive registration unit to your ROQ press. The registration unit has been designed in such a way that it actually eliminates probably 90% of the time it takes to register a job to your press. We've got 3 contact points that touch the same 3 points on your screen, that touch the same 3 points on the registration system, making sure that everything is exactly the same. So when you go from exposure all the way up to setup on the press, everything is exactly the same if it is done right. So we'll go through step 1 and I'll teach you exactly how to set up and calibrate your positive registration unit. Step 1 is finding the center line of our special registration pallet. If you'll notice, the brackets are not centered on these, so when you attach them to the pallet arm, it's actually not going to be centered. It's going to be off to the right. So what you'll need is a ruler, and I have a pen. You can also use a Sharpie or any type of marker. And these are standard 16-inch pallets. So my center dot or my center line is going to be at 8 inches, which I'll right here, 8 inches down here. Exactly. All right, and then what I'll do is I'll set my laser to either that line that you made or to those 2 dots so I know exactly where the center of this pallet is. And then I'll bring my special registration pallet up on there and it's going to give me the center line down that special registration pallet. Okay, so now we have our center line for our pallet. So what we did, as you saw before, was make the center line on the 16-inch pallet, set the laser on that line, and then we put our special registration pallet on here, and the laser that we set on the original pallet tells us where the center is on this pallet now. All right, step 2. So now what we need to do is transfer this laser line onto our screen. So I just have a blank screen here, and what I'm doing is the laser line is down the center of this screen now. So what I'll do is grab some tape. You can use painter's tape, use whatever you want. What you're gonna do is just run that down the same spot the laser line is on, okay? And then I have the screen tightly pushed up against the 3 points of contact on the special registration pallet. And what I'll do next is with a straight edge, I'm going to draw this laser line right on this piece of tape. Step 3 is marking the 3 nubs from these brackets. If you want to come take a look, you'll notice that nub right there touches on the screen right there. Another one does it here, and another one does it on bottom. Okay, there's 3 nubs, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our pen or our Sharpie and we're going to mark on the actual screen where the nub is touching the screen exactly. So we're going to do that in all 3 nubs. And then what we'll do is now that we have our center line, we know where our nubs are, what we'll do is we'll take this screen over to our PRU system and now we're going to calibrate it. Okay, now that we figured out our center line, we know exactly where the brackets are touching all 3 nubs on our screen. We're going to go ahead and translate that over to our PRU system. So what we're looking to do is match up the lines that we wrote on our screen with that nub there, this nub here, and all the way at the top we have 1 more nub. These are the exact same 3 nubs that are on the special registration pallet. So what I'm going to do is put my screen in and then come around on this side and I'm going to lock it in place. Okay, so what that does is the nub that I drew right there is right there, the other nub I drew is right there, and the 3rd nub that I drew, they're all touching in the exact same spot. If they weren't touching in the same spot, what you would do is you would just slide. Typically what it's going to be is this guy right here is the one that you're going to have to slide. So what you'll do is you'll release it, and then there's a knob on the side, and then move this forward and back up until you find the spot where that nub is touching exactly the same. All right, so now that I got the nub part figured out, the next step, which is going to be step 5, is getting the lasers lined up to my center line that I created from the special registration pallet on the press. So if you look here, you'll notice my line is pretty significantly off. It's off by like almost 1/4 inch. So the way to fix that is underneath right here, there's a knob down there that I'm going to loosen up. I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. There's another knob over here. All right, so now that moves the screen forward and back. So what I'll do is I'll set it up exactly to the center line of my laser, and then I'll re-secure it. You'll see that I got my center line perfectly matched up with my lasers. All right, but another thing to take into consideration is making sure that your screen is actually touching the lasers. And the way that you do that is there is a bracket right under here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this bracket. It goes down and up. And what we want is this thing to sit perfectly flush with the laser. We don't want the screen mesh raised above the laser at all. So I'm gonna do that front and back, make sure that these things are exactly the same. And then you can even do the same thing on the back end. There's two more. If we were to loosen up these two locks right here, underneath there, you'll have the same two brackets. I've already calibrated them to this, so I don't need to do it now. But when you're getting it new, or if you want to recalibrate your PRU, you definitely want to take into consideration putting those in the exact spot so that you have zero off contact when it comes to the screen touching the lasers. You want them flush on there. You don't want them, the laser supporting the mesh, but you want them sitting on it just perfectly. And now for the fun part, let's go ahead and register a job to our PRU and then go ahead and put it on press and watch how fast this thing registers. So something to take into consideration is the size of your registration marks. The size of the laser, we've come to find out, is 0.0239 of an inch. All right, so if you could set your registration marks to 0.0239, you will be exact width of that laser, which will actually help when it comes to registering, because a lot of the errors that do happen with the PRU are because of human error. So we try to eliminate all those variables if we can. Another thing to take into consideration are the types of frames that you're using. So you've got static and you've got eco, which will work perfectly with the brackets we have here. And there's another set of brackets if you're using roller frames. So with that, let's go ahead and get this job registered. So something you really want to think about when you're adding multiple layers is the position of the film onto the lasers. You want to make sure that wherever you put your registration marks, top and bottom, you match them identically to all the other layers. Make sure that there is zero error. Anything off is going to throw it off on press. So you want to make sure that everything is exactly the same. All registration marks are hitting in the same spot, and you'll find that you'll get better results when you're registering on a press. I've put my underbase screen here in place and I've locked everything, and now I have my registration marks that are hanging out. So what I want to do is get this registration mark on top as good as I can, and what I can do is loosen this bottom laser and slide the laser back until I find the perfect position for that. There's our first screen. Now we just repeat the process 2 more times because this is a 3 color, and then we'll go ahead and expose the screens and get to it. Now that the PRU's been calibrated, it's time to set up a job on press. Now, if we did everything right, like we should have, this should be going by extremely fast. So I'll show you a couple things to look out for when you're loading screens with your special registration palette. So I'm gonna bring the screen in, and then I'm gonna set it up on the inside of the front clamp assembly, and then bring the rear clamp assembly up, and then I'm gonna push my screen to the side away from me. So I'm gonna be pushing the screen to the left. So when I bring the print head down, the screen doesn't hit the brackets on the special registration palette. So here we go. I brought it down. Now I can pull it all the way over so that I'm touching those same 3 nodes that we were talking about before, touching in all 3 spots exactly the same. Then I secure my screen in place, and then I repeat that process for the rest of the colors. Now that the job has been set up on press, it's time to run our first test print. So I'm gonna let the machine do all the work. So I've set it up to where we've got 2 strokes on the underbase. We're gonna use a stampinator. We've got 2 strokes on the yellow. We're going to flash. And then we've got a final 2 strokes for the highlight white. and we'll go ahead and see how that turns out. Fingers crossed, not that I need it. In conclusion, the ROQ REG, or positive registration unit, did exactly what it was supposed to. It got a 3-color job on press and registered with a test print done within 5 minutes. Now, in the print world, efficiency and accuracy are what we're all chasing. The ROQ REG, or positive registration unit, delivers on both of those. If you want to find out more about our positive registration unit, visit us at roq.us, and thank you for being our partner in print.